Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite lenses that I own. I use it for both film photography and digital photography. And if you shoot in the Canon system, I think this is a lens you should consider owning if you don't already own it. And that lens is the Canon 50mm 1.8, also known as the NIFTY 50. I'm going to show you photos I've taken with this lens, both on film and digital, just to give you an idea of the capabilities and maybe give you some inspiration to take your NIFTY 50 out and see what it can do. Okay, so I created a small Lightroom catalog to show you some of the photos I've taken with this lens. This is a shot of the Route 91 memorial that was set up near the Las Vegas during October of 2017. I have a ton of shots of this memorial. I kind of did a little photo project on that, but I picked a couple out that I shot with the NIFTY 50. So this is a shot that's at f4.5, so not completely wide open, and I don't think I've edited this shot yet, but this just gives you an idea that even at 4.5 with certain compositions, you can get some cool looking shallow depth of field vibe. The rose is really sharp. I exposed to the sky, so the rose is a little bit in shadow, but it's sharp. The color behind in the background is really good. The if you care about out of focus area, the bokeh, it's decent on this. That's not a big deal to me. And certain shots like this, I mean, when I have a solid focal point like this, anything else out to the side, I really don't care about, like whether it's super sharp or whatever. That being said, there are a lot of really sharp details on the sides. But again, this was my focal point. This is what I was caring about. Here's a shot at 1.8 of the memorial of some little crosses on a rock there. And I don't know how close I was, but I imagine I was as close as I probably could get. So it's about a foot on this lens, a little over a foot on the focal distance, closest focal distance. Oftentimes this is the kind of look that we're going for when we look at these fast lenses, 1.8, 1.4, 1.2. Again, this is 1.8. This isn't even 1.4, 1.2. You can see how shallow depth of field that is. I mean, even if I had a 1.4, 1.2 lens, that may have been overkill because I'm not even getting that complete cross in focus. Now, granted, maybe I could have adjusted a little bit and got all of it, but I like this shot, and 1.8 more than did the trick. Another shot at 1.8. This is me just kind of playing around with the shallow depth of field. This stuff is sharp in the middle here, and everything to the side is, as you'd expect, nice and blurry. As far as the stuff in the background, there's no lights or anything, so that you're not going to get the traditional shape bokeh on this subject matter. But I like this effect sometimes when I'm shooting stuff in nature, how the out of focus area creates different shapes and texture. Now these next few are shot on film, and I haven't cleaned up the scan, so there's some dust marks on here, but this again, just want to give you some idea of the lens, both in film and digital. I'm probably off from focus a little bit here because these could be probably a little sharper, but yeah, like that area is kind of sharp, but the background's really nice and blurry, and it has a really cool effect. And this is, I think, yeah, the same thing, probably stopped down just a little bit. So that's 1.8. This is probably 2.8, something like that. Yeah, here's a few. I don't, during this shoot, when I was shooting this this little pond lake area, most of the time I was not opened up to 1.8, and a lot of times I'm not. So this is probably at f4, something like that. This is probably 5.6 or 8. Some of these are, like I said, unedited, and even the dust isn't cleaned up quite yet, but I like some of these shots. These film shots were shot on my EOS 3 with this NIFTY 50. I think the film was Ilford HP5. Some more 1.8 shots with some vegetation. Some of those are cool. Now these next few are more of downtown Las Vegas, given that city vibe, some black and white, some color. This one is, it says I'm at f5. I noticed that on this day I stayed at ISO 400 a lot. I think I like to mimic what I do on film and digital. Just it helps me make quicker decisions if I'm shooting a 400 speed film and I switch over to digital. it makes me move a little quicker. I don't have to think quite as much because I'm already have the mindset for a certain aperture range for the appropriate ISO. Some cool lights that I did this. Another digital shot, obviously, that I did the black and white conversion in Lightroom. Another one at f5. Here's another one at f5, but again, much like that rose shot earlier, even though it's at f5, giving yourself some distance from whatever you want to highlight in the background, it can look just appropriately out of focus. Not so out of focus that you can't make any sort of shapes, but still just enough out of focus that it adds really, really cool depth to the image. So this is the Binion side behind this Nevada license plate, and I really like this one. I debated on converting that one to black and white, and I still may. Some more neon in black and white. I love how neon looks in black and white, both in film and digital. This is another one at 1.8 because I think I just wanted to make sure I got that light bulb in focus in the center of the photo, and everything else I didn't really care about. I probably could have shot that at a different aperture though. Here's a window and a sign I've shot multiple times, both on film and digital, and each time I find it just a slightly different way to approach it. So this is at 1.8. I knew I wanted to blur the people inside and any reflection that was off the window, just to really highlight some of this neon sign up here, because I've shot this other ways, different apertures and whatnot. Here's a couple different things going on in this image. So I have the foreground element, this liquor sign, which I liked the color and the texture and some of the lights in the bottom. I thought that was cool. The moon behind everything, which I knew would be out of focus, but still thought it was a cool element to have in there. And this is at 1.8. I'm not always a pixel peeper, but people like to see that and are interested in that. So if you zoom in, you can see even at 1.8, this stuff is super sharp where it's supposed to be sharp. Oftentimes you get a lens and when you use it wide open, it's not sharp anywhere, even in the center. I don't find that to be the case with this lens. At 1.8, it has some really, really sharp elements to it. This is at f2.5. Really, really cool black and white conversion on this image. This is a great black and white one of the Fremont Street sign. There's another one at f2.5, a shot in color on the 6D again, same day that I converted to black and white. I have a handful of really cool shots of El Cortez Hotel that day that some just look really, really good in color. Some needed to be black and white, I felt, and this was one of those. Another El Cortez shot. This one's unedited, but you'll see a couple that I have started to edit, and they really start to get a cool evening look. So here's one I have started to edit. It's f5 of El Cortez. This is a great example of the versatility of this lens. So f5. I mean, a lot of lenses shoot at f5, but the sharpness at f5 for this lens is awesome. And again, I like having this lens around because, well, for one, on a full frame, it's a really, really good focal length, and having that 1.8 in your pocket if you need it is handy. But as you can see, most of these images that I shot in this city scene was, or a lot of them were at f5 because I wanted detail throughout the image. I wanted to see a lot of different things, and like on this image, for example, I pretty much wanted as much as that El Cortez building and sign as I could get in focus. And then, on a side note, shooting at early morning or evening, right before the sun comes up, right before the sun completely disappears. I mean, you've heard it before, but it can't be overstated how awesome that is. The magic hour or golden hour, whatever you want to call it. There's some really, really cool photo opportunities, especially if you have clouds catching that sunlight. You get some surreal. You can get some really surreal shots. Some of my best shots have been done at those times, and these are a couple of those examples. I love how the color on the clouds match the vibe of that El Cortez sign. Here's another shot at f5 that converted to black and white. I take a lot of shots of this sign. I like the reflection of El Cortez in the window on this one, and the open sign was really cool. Another one that I debating on whether to keep color or black and white, go black and white on it. This is a composition I hadn't done before because this sign in the foreground is fairly new. So I did this one at f1.8 because I wanted those foreground elements to be slightly out of focus. But everything behind that is pretty clear and sharp, and those clouds look pretty awesome. Same shot. This one's probably completely unedited. Still has a really, really cool vibe to it. I think this is probably a few minutes later too, because the light's starting to change pretty quickly. There's some street art, a mural on one of the walls down there. There's a whole bunch of these. There's some good photo opportunities with them. This one I just kind of wanted to get a vibe of the night shooting capabilities of a lens like this, even though this is at 2.5. This is on my 6D. You hear a lot of talk about shooting in the dark and whatnot, but like I mentioned before, I like to mimic what I do with film ISO to begin with. I never, even if a camera can go up to 6400 or 12,000 or whatever, for photography, I don't usually do that unless I need to capture something for a specific reason. Artistically though, I don't usually do it. So here is a 2.5 shot, and because of the composition, everything behind it is really, really nicely out of focus and didn't even have to open up all the way. But that fence, a decent part of that fence is pretty sharp and in focus, and created a cool shot. This one definitely will be black and white. Another similar one at 1.8, I think I missed focus on this one. I wanted that bar in focus and I missed it, but still worthy of showing because of just the vibe of the out of focus areas and how much of that fence is not in focus. There's only a little bit of this part in front of that bar that is. And then a alley shot at 1.8. And again, you've noticed all these are at ISO 400. So that's what's cool. I wasn't cranking up the ISO to some ridiculous amount, but this one I opened up to 1.8 to help me out a little bit. And there's still a lot of detail in this image. And this one can probably be edited for a little more drama. Although there's nothing really interesting in the center of this photo, but this was just taken for an example. So that's it for the photo samples. Again, like I said, this lens, which many call the NIFTY 50, Canon 50mm 1.8, is truly one of my favorite lenses, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. If I can't decide what I'm going for when I'm going out, if I'm just taking one camera and one lens, if I'm not sure whether I'm going to want some super fine detail, if I'm not sure if I'm going to need as much aperture as I can get, this is one of the ones I'll grab. This one and my 85 1.8. I'll grab those two. This is about $125 brand new retail price. I'll put an Amazon affiliate link below so you can check this lens out on Amazon, but you can find it anywhere. $125 brand new, and you can find it used for $100 or less sometimes. So yeah, I use it all the time. I use it on my Canon 6D, which is my Canon DSLR, full frame. This camera is 7-8 years old now, but I still love it. It still gives me some really, really cool images. And then when I shoot it on film, I shoot it on all my Canon film SLRs. As if you've seen this channel, go look at some of my film SLR reviews. I mentioned the NIFTY 50 a lot. It's true. It's a staple for my film photography. So I'll use it on Elon, the EOS 3, EOS 1, pretty much every camera, every film camera I have, I've tried the NIFTY 50 on at one time or another. It's just a really versatile lens. There's a lot of benefits to this lens. Is it the best at anything? Maybe not, but it's a well-rounded lens that gives you amazing value. So it's affordable, it's sharp, it has a really nice wide open aperture capability at 1.8, which gives you a lot of options for creating shallow depth of field shots, more than you think. I mean, it's so tempting to disregard this and dismiss it because it's not 1.2 or 1.4. 1.8 can do a lot, especially when it gives you a close focus distance like this one does, which is a little over a foot. It's got great color, great fine detail. So not only is it sharp, but it's got really good detail. It's well built, and when I say well built, it's well built for a $125 lens. It's not L lens quality, but again, $125. But it does have a metal mount, which is greatly appreciated. I'm so happy that they added the metal mount on this model. It's 50 millimeters is a versatile focal length. It's good for portraits on crop sensor and full frame. On crop sensor, it turns out to be about an 80mm, and it's a great versatile lens, and it works well with video. So any Canon cameras that have video as an important feature, this lens will shine with that. So I guess that's about it. I just want to show you some samples from this lens that I've taken, just give you my view of this lens from my experience. It's one of my favorites, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone who owns a Canon film SLR or Canon DSLR. So if you shoot with this already, please leave comments below, maybe share some links to some photos that you might have, and keep watching this channel and subscribe if you have not yet. I'm getting a lot more views, which I totally appreciate, trying to get the subscriber count up. So subscribe if you can, and comment and let me know what else you're shooting with. Talk to you soon.